И ми казваше всеки път: не викай, никога не викай духове. Вика: просто не дебетле. Тия са по-яки. True scary horror stories. True, в смисъл истински. Disturbing true. True, това са истински.
Back in 2014, I experienced something I still can't explain. I was still living at home at the time as an only child. I didn't have many friends or any hobbies to speak of, so I spent most of my free time surfing the internet and looking for anything that could hold my attention. On the weekends, I would wait for my parents to leave the house. Then, like most teenagers, I would use the alone time to browse through more devious content. On the night that this unexplainable thing happened, I was getting up to the same thing I always did. When I was finally home alone, I closed my door and drew my curtains, turned the lights off, and grabbed a box of tissues from the bathroom, in case I got a runny nose while I was watching what I was finally able to watch now that nobody was around. My parents said they would be gone all night, so I knew I could stay at it for as long as I wanted. Of course, that meant that there were quite a few soiled and crumpled up tissues tossed into the bin. But after a couple hours, I was pretty much drained and bored of just watching stuff by myself like I did every weekend, and I was starting to wish I had someone to talk to. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't have very many friends, and certainly nobody that I could call close. The handful of people I could think of to text never even read my messages, so rather than beg the people I sort of knew at the time to talk to me, I figured I'd have better luck with strangers. I had already known about Omegle for some time by then, mostly by watching YouTubers exploring all the different tags you can add to your search for new friends, but I'd never used it myself. I didn't have friends because of my social anxiety, and that bled over to video chatting too, which I wasn't super comfortable with in the beginning, especially since they were all strangers. But it was better than tossing tissues all night, and I figured there was no way I'd ever see any of the people I met more than once, let alone run into them in person, so I gave it a shot. Obviously, just like anyone else would see, my initial experience on Omegle was getting flooded by a bunch of creepy old men asking for my ASL. I skipped over all those guys, and it really felt like I was trudging through an endless ocean of them. But even when I found somebody who looked decent, I would get skipped by them. It was only my first time on Omegle, but if it was supposed to be a place where you could talk to people, then that night was not a good night for it. All the freaks and weirdos seemed to be out, and I was starting to lose hope that I would ever find anybody of interest. I thought about calling it quits, but then I felt like giving it just a few more tries. That's when I encountered the most unusual thing I'd seen all night. Whoever or whatever they were, someone or something, they were creepier than any run-of-the-mill offender on Omegle. I was immediately so petrified by the image in front of me that I couldn't even click away from it. I just kept staring at the screen, trying to figure out what in the world I was looking at. I couldn't tell if they were wearing some kind of mask or a bunch of weird makeup. They barely looked human, and if they were severely deranged. If I had to describe them, it looked like a male figure with deathly pale skin, dark sunken-in eyes, and a strange scraggly haircut, like they were halfway dead and already starting to decompose. Then, out of the blue, the man started meowing, like he thought he was some sort of cat man. It creeped me out, but I was still suspecting that I was getting pranked somehow, although I had no idea how any of this was supposed to be funny. Hello? What's up with you? Why don't you talk like a normal person? After I tried speaking to him, my computer screen started glitching out, and that's when the Catman jumped from his seat to his desk, landing backwards on all fours like he was about to start spider walking in front of the camera like the possessed girl from The Exorcist. It happened so fast that I flinched and fell off my chair, but I continued to watch from the floor, completely awestruck. The Catman stared right right into the camera, except his face was upside down now from the position he was in. He was still meowing too, which just added to the uneasy feeling that was building about this whole situation. I'd seen so many horror movies and it felt like any one of them could come true at any moment. I half expected him to crawl out through the screen and reap my soul. What the hell do you want? Why are you doing that? Do you think this is funny, sicko? He didn't seem to care about what I said, and if he did, I think it was only upsetting him, because it was then that his head began to twitch as he slowly craned to the side until it was totally horizontal, all the while shrieking with one long meow, opening his mouth wider and wider to the point that it looked like he had inhumanly large set of jaws. What the hell is the matter with you? Stop meowing at me! I was horrified by whatever was about to happen next, but then the glitching in the screen got worse and uncontrollable and eventually froze, blocking up the whole computer and forcing it to crash. I breathed a deep sigh of relief that the computer shut itself off. I was still dumbstruck in the darkness and sitting on the floor, so I have no idea how long I would have let that go on before I came to my senses and skipped that psycho. I eventually picked myself up and left my computer alone for the night, deciding to get some sleep and see if I couldn't forget the whole thing, or at least put some mental distance between me and it. It was difficult to get to sleep after being so shaken up, but I did get there after calming down for a little while.
Тази история няма ли край вече? Мисля, че тук е добър момент да спре вече историята. Мисля, че е към своя край. Няма нужда сега това да идва тук в стаята му, нали така, гайс?
The next morning, things almost seemed alright. I could still vividly remember the strangeness of the cat man, his annoying meowing and corpse-like appearance, but other than that, everything seemed normal. That was, until I stood in front of the mirror before stepping into the shower and noticed the deep cat scratches all over my body.
What? How? What? How? Meow. Това как е ту стори? Не знам, човек. Тук цяло хорор, нещата в повече случаи са някакви загадъчни такива, където само той дет го е преживял, може да каже, и никой не му вярва, нали? Лукумчета, какво пуста котката на това вече. Мяу! Ама са яки такива, виж, анимирани са, държат те под напрежение, изродите са някакви анимирани, са някакви такива факани. В смисъл такъв, че някакси не ти запечатва някакви гнусоти в съзнанието, имам предвид. И пак те държи в такова, в напрежение. Защото гадното на хорър мувията, че евентуално подсъзнанието ще запамети някакви гнусни фейсове, човек. Като цяло, може би за това мога да е вредно. Но виж, като са анимирани, е някакси найс. Така... Instagram creep? Real life Instagram creep. Ooh, let's do this.
In my freshman year of college, I still lived with my mom. It was a small house in Fontana, California, near where I went to school. I didn't need to live in a dorm to get to know everybody in my classes. That's what things like Instagram were for, and I was upping my popularity by letting all the people I met at school follow me. I kept my profile up to date with posts.
Сега ще ви кажа нещо преди да продължа. По едно време се бях залюбил, като се запозная с някакви хора, приятели, примерно да разпитам или някакви... Като се срещна с някакви хора, където е така на лав мухабет, примерно в компанията са просто. И се бях залюбил да ги питам дали са имали някакво преживяване на паранормална активност, някакви духове или нещо е такова. Дали знаят някаква история или на тях им се е случвало. И най-интересната история, която им бяха казвали е, понеже аз дълго години съм играл в футбол и с много футболисти се познавам от различни набори, от различни отбори. И едно момче им беше разправил на някаква подготовка са били. Момчето каза така: решили да викат дама пика. Това много често преди се прави, сега не знам по подготовките дали се прави, защото сме в мъжка обстановка и ха-ха-ха, айде да видим кой се осере и някои се правят на мъже, че ни пука, други ги е страх, не дей, брат, не дей, някакви такива и общо взето да, има драма, дето се вика, интересно си го правите. И то пича разправя, решили да викат дама пика или там, не знам, не дама пика, но нещо подобно дама пика, аз просто това не го знам, за което той ми говореше. И казва така, имало 3 или 4 момчета викали този дух конкретния, с някакво наименование, да кажем, че е дама пика, и имало едно момче, което спяло до тях. И да кажем, че са го викнали с онова, нали, също дето мести капачката, да кажем. И викнали този дух и му казали дух тук ли си, той дал знак, че е тук, сега не знам точно какъв е знака. Да, някакъв е такъв борд, да кажем, че е имал. Пак ви казвам, защото не го помня с точност, но ще ви го кажа горе-долу. Нали, контекст ще го разберете. И тук ли си дух? Да, не знам си какво решили да го питат, за да разберат наистина дали съществува това нещо. И казали целуни Станимир по бузата. Станимир е момчето, което спи до тях. И се обърнали всички към Станимирчо. И Станимир, както се спял, изведнъж почнал така да се пипа по бузата и да се чеше и да се търка и някакви такива, човек. Направо отвратително, човек. Отвратително. Абсолютно същия лагер. В абсолютно същата стая на това момче, където ми го разправя. Вика, прибирам се от тренировка, изморен, искам да си къпа и да си легна, защото тренират дворазово, 2 пъти на ден. И от втора тренировка се прибират. Влизам в стаята, отварям и сак от посредата на нищото пада на земята. Посредата в стаята. Не да падне от нещо, посредата в стаята влизам и той пада. И аз съм what the fuck, bro? Отвратително, не викайте духове, guys. Отвратително. Не викайте духове, между другото. Майка ми и баща ми са ме разправили. Станимир можел да се правя, че спи. Не знам сега, не знам. Това е история, която аз не съм бил там, разправили съм я. Видимо, дори когато ми разправяше това момче историята, беше адски притеснен и ми казваше всеки път, не викай, никога не викай духове. Вика, просто не дей, бетле. В смисъл, friendly advice. Колкото хора съм познавам, които са викали духове, винаги ми казват, не го прави. Никога не го прави, човек. В смисъл, don't fuck with this shit. Защото това ще ви казвам за една друга история, където майка ми и баща ми са викали духове с приятели и са викали с нещо такова. Как го каза? Къвборд каза, че е това? Това дето е с азбуката, да, не и такива работи. И с една капачка. Уя. Уя ли? Какъв е то уя? Как чете, бе, гайс? Уя борд. Уя борд. С уя борд. Добре, те тогава си го направили handmade просто. С хуя борд. Да, майка и баща ми с приятели са викали и тогава са викали духа на баща ми, на дядото. И са го питали, примерно тогава са били гаджета с майка ми и са го питали ние с Галя ще се вземем ли, питал баща ми и той отговорил да. Ще имаме ли деца? Той е казал да. Как ще се казва? И знаете ли какво е изписал на, нали, реално клавиатурата на буквите? Е казал, не е казал име, а е казал на баща ти. Тоест, на баща ти на името. И брат ми наистина се казва така на бащата на баща ми. Което е what? Супер легит, човек. После са ме разправили, че... смисъл, пита духа на прадядо ми как ще се казва сина на баща ми. И прадядо ми казва, вместо да каже името Иван, казва на баща ти. Все едно ще бъде кръстен на баща ти или ще вземе името на баща ти. И наистина, дядо ми се казва Иван и са кръстили брат ми Иван, но не защото така е казал духа на прадядо ми, просто защото така са решили. Тогава са ме разправили, че когато са викали, постепенно капачката се е движила много по-бавно и са го питали дядо изморили са, той е казал дай и са го оставили. Аборт нямам аз, не. И друго, какво ще я ви казвам? Тогава са пробвали да викат, защото е бил някакъв национален празник, сега не мога да ви кажа 3 март ли е било, 2 юни ли е било, някакъв национален празник е бил. И са опитали да викнат духа на Христо Ботев ли, на Васил Левски ли, на някакви революционери, тогава обаче не са успяли. Били са заети, да, някой други е извикал. Да, тогава ми бях казали, че това никога не трябва да го правя. Общо взето, защото мога да викнеш един, пък да дойде друг злонамерен. Нещо такова.
In my freshman year of college, I still lived with my mom. It was a small house in Fontana, California, near where I went to school. I didn't need to live in a dorm to get to know everybody in my classes. That's what things like Instagram were for, and I was upping my popularity by letting all the people I met at school follow me. I kept my profile up to date with posts and stories every day, taking selfies from pretty much everywhere I went, whether I was at the movies.
Чакай малко, човек. Нали жена гледаме? Тя ли говори в момента, защото е мъжки глас? I don't get it.
At a fast food place, in class, or even at home. That's just what everyone was doing, and I didn't want to alienate myself, but that's when I would soon regret that decision. One evening, after a long day of classes, I got home and did my usual routine of studying and having dinner with my mom. I eventually got into bed, ready to pass out.
Бе, аз не мога да дойда, защото така го казват. I was ready to go to bed.
That was when I heard my phone buzz on the nightstand, right as I was on the verge of falling asleep. I figured it was probably nothing, but I reached over and checked the notification, just in case it was a text from someone important. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was just Instagram letting me know that I had another new follower. I was groggy and could barely read the username, but it was something like @JonathanW, and then a bunch of random numbers and characters.
Jonathan.
That, and the fact that they didn't have a profile picture, made it clear that this was not somebody who went to school with me. My curiosity led me to check out his page, and so I did. I could see that he was following hundreds of accounts, but didn't have a single follower.
Буквално никой, братле. Буквално никой не го прави. 0 followers и супер много following. Буквално никой не гледа профила на такъв човек. Не е ли така? Особено без профилна. Обаче да кажем, айде сега това е било в началото на Инстаграм, когато така може, айде.
There wasn't even a bio or a link to anything. However, there were a few posts on his account. As I began scrolling, I noticed all the posts were of the same thing. A confusingly close-up shot of some kind of cotton upholstery stapled onto wood planks, like he was some kind of construction worker. The only difference between any of them was that it looked like some of them were taken at night, while others were taken from the daytime. I figured the account was either just some bot or maybe...
Това между другото е супер гнусно, човек. То снима само някакви дъски, бе. Отвратително. Това е все едно гледката на жена, която е в поза на задна. Я знам, човек, what do you mean? Така ми изглежда. Не изглежда такава човек, просто на тъмно.
The only difference between any of them was that it looked like some of them were taken at night, while others were taken from the daytime. I figured the account was either just some bot or maybe some random weirdo, so I put down my phone and tried to go back to sleep. Not even a minute later, my phone buzzed again. This time when I checked, it was a DM from the same guy that read, "Hey baby." I immediately realized that it was...
Да, бе, човек. И тя такава, докато спи. Добре, каква ще е тава, човек? Тя трябва да е супер лишена от мъжко внимание, което е много трудно. Принцип, дори да си 3 от 10 жена, имаш мъжко внимание. Човек, толкова да е отчаяна, че в колкото са през нощта, тя вече полузаспала, ще дърне някакъв Джонатан, дет няма 0 followers. Буквално никой не го харесва то. Никой. Абсолютно никой. Без профилна снимка и ще пише "Hey baby" и тя така, чакай да му отговоря. What the fuck, bro? Това не мога да е true story.
An actual person, I decided to respond back with,
"Who's this?"
Admittedly.
Wow, who's this? И с caps lock. Това се едно баба ми човек, за да мога да го вижда буквите. Го е написала who's this. Благодаря за реда.
Lying to him wasn't the best idea, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that he would be able to see when I read his messages after that. However, after a few minutes, he didn't respond with anything, so I put my phone down again and tried to get some sleep. I was just starting to doze off when I heard my phone. This time, I ignored it. It annoyed me to think I was about to lose much needed sleep just to interact with some Instagram creep. I figured if I stopped reading his messages, he would get bored and move.
Гай, сега знам какво ще стане. Сега ще кай, живееш еди къде си, не знам си какво, и се окай тук близко до тях. Може и да я наблюдава през прозореца. Вие какво мислите, че?
A minute later, there was another notification. My sleepiness was already spoiled by how irritated I was, so I checked it out with the intentions of blocking him. But what I saw made me realize that I was getting dragged into something far more serious than I had anticipated. He sent a candid picture of me at school. A chill ran down my spine. In the picture, I was in the outfit I was wearing earlier that day, but I had no idea I was being photographed by anybody but myself and my friends. He sent it with a caption that read, "Do you like this candid shot I got of you today?" All of a sudden, this situation with seemingly just a harmless weirdo turned into something far more terrifying. I didn't know what to do, so I sent him a harsh text cussing him out.
"Who the hell are you? Leave me the alone or I'll send this to the cops."
Then as soon as I sent the message, I blocked the account so he didn't have time to respond. I threw down my phone for the last time and tried to finally get some sleep. But I was so horrified thinking that I now had a stalker on my hands. I had no idea who he was or how long it had been going on. Yet, somehow, I managed to put myself in enough denial about the whole thing and fell asleep. In the morning, however, I remembered everything. I told my mom about the whole ordeal before I left the house, and I could tell she was concerned for me, but also just as clueless as I was. I talked to my friends about it at school, but none of them have ever dealt with anything like this before either. Thankfully, when I got home, my mom had this idea of setting up a couple of home security cameras around the house. Neither of us knew what this creep was capable of, so she figured we'd have the extra measure of safety to help me feel safer. We made sure to put one of the cameras in my bedroom just before I went to bed for the night. I laid down and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I was strangely feeling uncomfortable, like maybe nothing was that wrong after all. But just a few minutes after I turned off my lights, I heard my bedroom door creak open. I opened my eyes, and that's when I saw the man in his underwear standing in my doorway. I started screaming from the top of my lungs, and that's when the man suddenly lunged towards me. I began to kick and scream simultaneously, just to get the creep away from me. Thankfully, the sounds I was making were enough to make him turn around and run out of the house. My mom came storming into my room to my aid. We stayed in the bedroom with a chair leaning against the doorknob and immediately called the police. Somewhat unsurprisingly, the man didn't run very far. They They caught him lurking in the neighbor's yard just a few doors down. We handed over the security footage to the police and told them everything we knew. And after a few days of investigating, we got the story they were able to put together. The man who snuck into my room was the same one who had been stalking me at school. He had developed an obsession over me and started taking pictures of me on campus, and then eventually started following me home. But the part that terrifies me the most was how he was never a construction worker. Those confusing pictures of wooden planks were just photos he took underneath my bed while I was sleeping in it. He had been sneaking into my house and hiding under my bed for weeks. All I know is that I'll always be on guard whenever a stranger sends me a DM or adds me on Instagram. No. I'm always paranoid if it's that guy again.
Стига, бе. Снимки на леглото и отдолу, братле. Аз бях толкова близо, пак беше свързано с легло, ама не на задна. Добре, са го измислили. Това той ли е? Кой е това? Чакай. Кой е това? Макдоналдс Night Shift.
The next story may sound fabricated, but it is quote-unquote allegedly true, and has circulated the internet if you do a little digging. It was an urban legend that occurred around 2004/2005 in the city of Cuernavaca in Morelos, Mexico. The following animation portrays a dramatized version of the alleged event. All parties will be given aliases to protect the identities of all involved. There was a story so implausible that I would shake my head and roll my eyes whenever I heard my colleagues talking about it. However, all of this changed when someone in my family experienced the same thing, prodding me to withdraw every ounce of doubt. 3 years ago, my brother and his pal had just left a drinking party at a nightclub. They were so wasted it was difficult to even book a cab home. So as they tread across the long paved roads, struggling to avoid passing cars, they saw what appeared to be a brightly lit domicile in the distance. As they approached the light source, they realized that it wasn't a house, but a McDonald's fast food restaurant. They glanced through the glass windows and feasted their eyes on the menu displayed on the counter, delighted to see very few customers. After all, it was past midnight, and not so many people were expected to be out at this hour. Furnished after a long walk, they decided to order some Big Macs and flump on a bench outside the restaurant where a statue of Ronald McDonald was sitting comfortably at the edge.
Това всеки Макдоналдс го имаш, човек, и повечето сме сядали върху него. Imagine it wasn't real. Това е отвратително, бе, човек. Седнал си. Между другото, като сме били по-малки в Макдоналдс, като сме ходили, човек, много често сме сядали до този педал. И винаги съм го смятал за педал. Въпреки, че е просто статуя, която седи там.
Noticed its smile seemingly jolly, and its eyes eerily gazing back at them, causing them to feel reluctant before they eventually looked at each other and laughed at the childish thought, brushing it aside. A lit night, Pedro. I'll never forget it, my brother said as he took an enormous bite. Dude, you see that thing was giving me a bubble? She was bad, wasn't she? I might have to take her to McDonald's for a first date. Pedro winked while patting him on the back. Well, I'm sorry, dude. I can't hold it anymore. The sour taste in my brother's mouth made him retch, and so, unable to contain it, he headed to the trash bin where he threw up for the next couple of minutes, leaving his friend all alone with the statue on the bench. Having lost the strength and interest to finish his burger, Pedro thought of taking a nap on the Ronald McDonald statue's lap, and as he began to shut his eyes, he grumbled and said, "Oh, my headaches have gotten worse. I wish I could just die." Then, a creepy voice replied, "Be careful what you wish for." Ah! Pedro jumped, wondering for a moment where the voice might have emanated from. However, as he listened to cars honking and tree branches falling, he was convinced it was all in his head. "See, Pedro, this is what happens when you get drunk," he told himself as he resumed his nap. Then, amidst the silence, Pedro sighed and said, "I'm so tired." Moments later, the same voice from before spoke to him and replied, That makes the two of us. Before Pedro had any chance to react, the statue grabbed his head with both hands, tightening its vice grip as Pedro wailed in agony. Ah! Somebody help me! Even as he begged the clown to stop, it showed no remorse and continued to apply immense pressure on his skull until his entire head was squished to smithereens. When my brother finally returned to his friend, he dropped his burger in utter terror. Then, as he saw Pedro's eyeballs roll across the floor, he screamed. He instantly woke from his semi-stupor, banging on the door of the McDonald's. Somebody help me! Please let me in! However, to my brother's horror, McDonald's had already closed, and no one else was there. So, as he glanced at the bench behind him, the statue was now standing erect with a menacing gaze, showing off its razor-sharp teeth. In a split second, my brother made a run for it into the woods. Although he considered this nothing but mere imagination, the sound of his footsteps quickly catching up to him were all too real. What the hell is going on? Moments later, the evil clown grabbed his arm as he tried to break free. That's when the clown rips my brother's arm off, leaving him on the ground as he wailed in sheer agony. Then, the clown growled as it delighted itself in a sumptuous meal. I'm loving it! I'm loving it! I'm loving it! With his adrenaline rushing, my brother got to his feet, heedless of the immense pain. Then, he ran away from the woods until he eventually arrived home. As he locked the door behind him, he ran to the living room and dialed 911 with his remaining arm. His hand was uncontrollably shaking as he waited for an officer to pick up the call. When he was finally able to speak to someone, my brother said, wincing at the pain of his severed arm. Please send the cops! I know this is hard to believe, but Ronald McDonald is after me, and he's about to kill me!
Okay, sir, I'm sorry, but you need to slow down and say it more clearly this time. Do you understand?
But I don't have time! Like I said, Ronald McDonald is on his way to kill me!
You mean the clown, sir?
The officer asked with a hint of sarcasm and irritation. Yes, ma'am! Please hurry!
Sir?
Then, suddenly, the cop's voice turned from annoyance to delight.
You just made my day. To be honest, I was told there was going to be some kind of initiation, since this is my first week in the office. So I'm partly sorry for ruining the surprise, but it's a good one, sir. You got me.
No, this isn't a prank, lady! Send someone fast, please, I'm begging you!
Well played, sir. Well played.
My brother panicked. The officer then hung up on him. Moments later, my brother heard a loud thud on the door, followed by constant banging. Come on, you're no fun! Let me in! The clown said in a demonic voice. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Choose wisely! As the clown pounded louder, my brother only felt more anxious. Leave me alone or I will call the cops! The cops already hung up on you, dipshit! Now open the door! If you don't open up this very second, I'm gonna release all my Big Mac sauce on your front door! Finally, my brother decided to grab a knife from the kitchen and face his pursuer head on. If the cops don't do anything, I will, he told himself, mustering every ounce of courage he had in his body. My brother looked through the peephole as he listened to the clown's incessant laughter. However, strangely enough, he was nowhere to be seen. Despite my brother's reluctance, he opened the door, ready to strike the clown at will. But out of nowhere, the clown quickly wrapped its large hands around my brother's head, squeezing the life out of him. Ah! Let go of me, you prick! That's when my brother began to gouge at Ronald's eyes with his remaining hand while being suspended in midair. By some miracle, he managed to dig his fingers deep inside the crevices of the clown's eye sockets and rip his eyeballs out. That's when the clown released my brother from its tight grasp. I'm not loving it! My brother sprinted while weeping convulsively as he flagged down a moving vehicle to bring him to the nearest hospital. When I heard about my brother's story, my parents and I wanted to report this to the police. The security cameras outside the restaurant recorded the incident. However, McDonald's paid off all the damage expenses, including my family.
What was this now?
I wanted to report this to the police. The security cameras outside the restaurant recorded the incident. However, McDonald's paid off all the damage expenses, including my family's debts, law enforcement, and all parties involved, coercing us to keep the security tapes confidential. But rumor has it the word got out to the public, which caused multiple McDonald's franchises throughout the country to replace their Ronald McDonald benches with ordinary benches. Since then, my brother has been in a coma, almost irresponsive. My entire family avoids all McDonald's restaurants, wary of a clown sitting on a bench.
Ако е бил 8 от 10, иначе 3 от 10. Не знам, някакво странно е, човек, защото реално нещо, което аз не мога да се обясня е, значи тия, където са на пейката, клоуните, където мисля, че вече ги няма. Мисля, че никъде вече ги няма. Но които ги имаше, мисля, че всички са пластмасове. И реално, как така той е седял върху истински човек? В смисъл, да, пияни са били, така че е някакъв сериен убиец човек. Да спукаш главата някъде. Тук цяло виж какво казва, демоник глас и така нататък. Едва ли го казват с това, че е някакъв човек. Не знам, не мога да намеря тази история, където казва, че е обикаляла из интернета, но 2004-2005 се е случило това. Можеш, имаш толкова си откъснеш ръка и да спукаш глава. Някой пак казва, че тук в случая казва, че все едно не е човек. Това виж каква демоник глас и така нататък. Захвата на чеченец. Ама това Роналд наистина беше доста криво.